everyone, and welcome to the Creative Academy. My name's Eric Braman, my pronouns are they, them, and I am a poet, storyteller, and playwright based in Springfield, Oregon. Now today, I'm going to guide you through a couple different exercises to help you access your poetic mindset. Now, poetry unfortunately has earned this unfair reputation of being an inaccessible or elitist art form. I hope that after today's activities, you will feel a sense of greater connection to the poetic form and start to realize how truly accessible the art form is. It is a form of writing that breaks, manipulates, and plays with traditional writing styles, and therefore, in and of itself, it's meant to be a much more accessible form of writing. Why the poetic mindset? How can this help you in your daily life? Well, when you access a poetic mindset, you start to open new pathways of thinking, new ways of seeing the world, and unlock new ways to express yourself. Especially when we think in metaphor, a metaphor can really help us express ourselves in really difficult moments. It can help us build empathy with the people around us and help us make connections with all the different things in life that connect to this moment that we're living in right now. What can be really great about it is it helps us not feel so isolated in the work that we're doing, but feel connected to the greater web of this world that we're a part of. So let's go ahead and start with our first activity, which is a quick warm-up metaphor activity that I like to call the morning metaphor. So in our morning metaphor, the only things you need for this is a notebook or piece of paper and a pen. Simple, easy, nothing too fancy. So we're gonna go ahead and start off with writing at the very top of our notebook, "Today I feel blank." So let's go ahead and do that. Awesome. So today I feel blank. Let's take a self check-in and see how we're feeling today. And let's write down a number of different words that could fill in that blank. I'm gonna really encourage you to go beyond good or bad and start getting a little bit more specific. So are you feeling exhausted or drained after a long day of work? Or are you feeling energized and enthusiastic after a wonderful night of sleep? So for me, I'm gonna go ahead and write down a few different words. I think about myself feeling in this moment a little anxious, a little excited, I'm feeling energized, and I'm feeling nervous. Those will be my words that I'm going with right now. So I'm gonna write those down on my piece of paper. So now that you've got your words down on the page, let's go ahead and choose one of these words to focus in on. For me, I'm gonna go ahead and go with the word energized. And from here, we're gonna draw 5 lines out from that word. And we're gonna come up with 5 nouns that could be described by this word. Forget about yourself in this moment, just focus on this word. So for energized, I could imagine energized, I think of a battery. I think of a bunny, the Energizer bunny. I think of a toddler. Toddlers can be very energized. A chipmunk, and the sun. Those are gonna be my 5 words. So write those down on the line sticking out from that word. So now that we've got our words, let's choose one of these nouns that's our favorite. For me, chipmunk kind of surprised me when I was thinking of nouns, so I'm gonna go with chipmunk. And we get to use this word to fill in that top line on our page. So we're gonna say, "Today I feel like a chipmunk." It's a way more fun way of checking in at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, versus just saying, "Today I feel good," right? Or "Today I feel energized." Today I feel like a chipmunk. And I'm gonna finish telling the story about this chipmunk. I think my chipmunk, today I feel like a chipmunk trying to capture every acorn that falls from the tree. So you can see in there, I'm energized, but maybe I'm a little overly ambitious. Hopefully that's not a sign for this video. All right, let's jump into our next activity. And this is the main activity that we'll be doing today. So for our second activity, we're gonna be writing a poem. This is gonna be a 6-line poem that is gonna follow the 5 physical senses that we have available to us, as well as an emotional response. To start with writing your poem, we're gonna choose a subject about what we're gonna write about. This can be a person, a place, an object, or a momentous moment in your life. For me, I'm gonna choose one of my favorite locations in Eugene, which is the peak of Mount Pisgah. It's one of my favorite places to hike, and I have a lot of really wonderful memories at the top of the mountain there. So we're gonna go ahead and start with reflecting about this subject. The first line of our poem is gonna be using the sense of sight. So go ahead and close your eyes and think in your mind's eye about that subject you're writing about. What are some of the visuals that come to mind? For me, when I think about the top of Mount Pisgah, I think about the mist. That's one of my favorite things up there, is looking down into the mountains and valleys and seeing the mist there. Now, for the first line of my poem, I could simply say mist between mountains and valleys, but I want to give a little bit more energy or interest to it. So I think about how the mist moves, and it's almost like it's dancing through the mountains and valleys. So I think that's going to be my first line. Mist dances between mountains and valleys. So I'm going to write that down as my first line of my poem. You write down your first line as well. Now, the next sense that we're going to focus on is sound. What is the metaphorical sound of the subject? Yes, it could be explicit things that someone says or the actual sounds of a place, but when we use sound as a metaphor, we can describe what the person is like, right? So if you got someone, it could be, she's like the songbirds at the top of a tree. Or if it's a really important moment in your life, you could say it was like the final chord of a big symphony orchestra, right? You can get that dun kind of energy. Now for me, when I think of Mount Pisgah, I think of peace and serenity. It's one of my favorite things that I have up there is that this quietness, this softness. And there's something in it that is so peaceful and serene, and I need something that is as peaceful and serene as that. And actually, it might be the sound I'm hearing right now, which is the sound of fingers rubbing together. But I want to kind of think about a moment of fingers rubbing. And I think about my partner. So I'm going to go the light brush of fingers in an open palm. It's a sensory moment memory, but it's also a sound memory. So that's going to be my next line. You write yours. For the next section, we're going to consider the sense of smell. Now, smell can be a tricky one because we don't always know the smell of all the things that we're writing about, but we do have memories of scent. Were they sour or sweet? Was it floral or mechanic? Was it stagnant or fresh? We don't have to necessarily describe somebody again by the smell, but using smell as a sense of inspiration can help us find our next line. When I think about the peak of Mount Pisgah, I think of the fresh breeze at the top. I just hiked up a giant mountain. I am sweaty and I am nasty, but that breeze, it feels glorious. So I want to think about the smell of the breeze. And when I think about the breeze, I think about where it came from. Mount Pisgah is kind of situated, if you look west, right out to the ocean. If you think east, you go out towards Central Oregon where all the mountains are. So the mist kind of holds these smells of the places where it comes from. So I'm going to describe those. I think for mine, it will be sea foam and snow flurry blow in from afar, right? And capturing these different senses. And there are some light scents that are associated with those, but it's not too explicit. So let's go and write that one down. Now let's move on to touch. Now, touch can be a literal physical sensation, like brushing our hands through dry grass, or it can be more of a metaphorical idea, like a magnetic pull or static electricity. For me, when I think about the sense of touch when I get to the top of Mount Pisgah, I'm actually thinking about myself, because I did just walk up an entire mountain, and my muscles are always sore when I get to the top. So I think about the physical sensation inside my body when I get up there. And it's like my muscles are buzzing, right? And think of the word buzzing. What else buzzes? Bees buzzing. Ooh, there's a nice musicality to that. So I'm going to create a line that kind of plays with that. I think for mine, I feel bees buzzing just beneath the surface. I love alliteration, so that's a good line for me. I'm going to write that one down. All right, we are nearly there, just 2 more lines left. For the next line, we're going to focus on the physical sensation of taste. Now, taste can literally be how something tastes, right? Like for a person, it might be some food that they make that you remember, or for a more intimate relationship, how their kiss tastes. For an object, it could be how you imagine it to taste. Now for me, I think of the actual taste of salt when I get to the top of Mount Pisgah because I am sweaty, like I've described many a times in this video. And so I think about the taste of salt as the core taste when I get to the top. But also there's this freshness. There is salt paired with that breeze that comes in that really does in and of itself have a taste. So I think I want to play with something that is both fresh and salty. And something else that comes to mind when I hike Mount Pisgah, it's an opportunity for reflection for me. And I think about the people in my life. So I think I want to do something that is a reflection on some of the people in my life. Like my dad. He used to eat salted watermelon growing up. And that kind of is this perfect balance of salty and fresh. So I think my line's going to incorporate something there, but it needs something else. Salted watermelon just doesn't feel like quite enough. I really want to emphasize that fresh. So I think I'm gonna go with a two-part metaphor in this line. Salt sprinkled watermelon, fresh mint tea. It's got a nice rhythm to it, but I'm using two different visuals to kind of put the whole piece together. So you don't have to just have one idea. Let's write that one down. All right, so let's finish this poem with a very simple statement of how we feel emotionally. We've gone through all these metaphors of how we can imagine it through our different senses, but for this one, let's talk about how this subject really makes us feel deep down inside our heart. For me, when I get to the top of Mount Pisgah, I feel alive. I'm on top of the world, I'm looking down at this beautiful vista, and I just accomplished a major feat by hiking to the top. So I think my final line is gonna be simple as that. I feel alive. It doesn't have to be too fancy. Sometimes straightforward is really nice. So I'm gonna let that be my final line. All right, so the final step for writing our poem is giving it a title. Your title can be something as simple as the subject, literally, that you just wrote about, or it can be a line from the poem that you pull up and make the title, or it can be something else altogether. For me, since I never said Mount Pisgah in my poem, I think that's gonna be the title of my poem. So go ahead and title your poem right now. All right, let's go and read our poem back. I'll read mine to you, and I hope that you'll read yours aloud to some friends that are around you. Mount Pisgah. Mist dances between mountain and valley, the light brush of fingers in an open palm. Sea foam and snow flurry blow in from afar. I feel bees buzzing just beyond the surface. Salt sprinkled watermelon, fresh mint tea. I feel alive. There it is. A poem that I just wrote right here using my 5 senses and an emotional response. I hope that you will continue writing and taking this chance to be able to explore poetry in your own form. Now, the more you write, the better you get. Just like an exercise, it takes practice. But as you write more, you'll find yourself being more courageous in your writing a little bit faster, and even finding more experimental ways of writing. That's my Creative Academy video. Thanks so much for tuning in. Again, my name's Eric Braman. You can stay caught up with me by checking out my website, ericbraman.com, and that includes different ways you can get in touch with me, hire me to write a custom poem for you, or hire me as a story coach. You can also send me your poems, which I would love to read and hear, by sending them on Instagram to my handle @EricWilliamBram. I'd love to stay caught up with you and hear all the wonderful things that you write. Thanks so much for spending this time with me. Keep writing. I believe in you.